Have you ever walked into a city and felt like your soul had already been there before she came to Granada looking for silence? But what she found was a whisper older than her faith, a whisper that would follow her into ancient courtyards, echo through Andalusian arches, and eventually lead her into Sujud. Press 1 if you've ever felt like truth was waiting for you in a place you didn't expect. Press 2 if you believe some cities carry more than just history, they carry signs. Her name was Miriam, daughter of a rabbi, raised on Torah, trained in Hebrew and Halakha. But something inside her always asked, is this all there is? And when she stepped into the Alhambra, when she first heard Adhan rise above the stones, when a verse from the Qur'an reached her ears in the cafe where she least expected it, her world began to unravel. But what happened next, even her father couldn't have seen coming. Her name was Miriam Levinson, daughter of Rabbi David Levinson, the most respected voice in their Chicago synagogue. Miriam wasn't just raised Jewish, she was raised to embody it. By 10, she could recite half the Torah in Hebrew. By 16, she was teaching younger girls the laws of Shabbat and family purity. By 22, she was writing articles in Jewish journals about the moral clarity of halakha. Everyone said she would become a Rebbetzin, a rabbi's wife, a leader, a voice for the next generation. But Miriam had a secret. She didn't feel anything. She followed the rituals, lit the candles, recited the blessings, smiled at the right times. But inside there was a hum, a low, quiet ache, like something was missing, not broken, not wrong, just not there. And no one noticed, or maybe they did, and pretended not to. The turning point came after her mother passed away, cancer, fast, unforgiving. The synagogue held a week of mourning filled with psalms and visitors. But Miriam just sat, still, numb. People whispered things like God gives and God takes. This is a test. Her soul is in peace. But none of it landed. None of it reached her. She didn't say it out loud, but deep inside, she wasn't sure if she believed anymore. 6 months later, she booked a flight to Granada, Spain. She told her father it was for historical research, a solo trip, quiet, reflective. She said she wanted to explore the Sephardic past, and that was partially true. But the full truth, she just needed space. Away from the weight of expectations, away from the temple, away from the eyes of her community. She needed to breathe. Granada was like a storybook. The air was dry and crisp, carrying the scent of olives and stone. The streets wound like ancient veins through whitewashed walls and bursts of flowers. Everywhere she turned, arches, fountains, mosaics. Miriam walked without a plan. She spent mornings wandering the Albazine, afternoons sipping tea beneath pomegranate trees, and nights listening to the city whisper. There was history in the walls, and it spoke in silence. On her third night, she heard something. Not music, not Spanish. A call, rising from a nearby hill, slow, rhythmic, ancient. It caught her mid-step. She turned toward the sound without thinking. It came from a minaret, a voice melodic and raw, stretching across the rooftops. She didn't understand the words, but something in her chest tightened, like her soul recognized it, even if her mind didn't. She asked the cafe owner what it was. He smiled. The Adhan, he said, the call to prayer. Muslim? He nodded. She didn't know why, but that answer unsettled her, not in a bad way, in a way she couldn't name. Later that night, she opened her laptop and typed Islamic history of Granada. What came up stunned her. The Alhambra, designed by Muslim architects. The fountains she loved, crafted using Quranic ratios. Even the Arabic carvings in palace walls, verses from the Qur'an. She'd walked all day inside a world shaped by a faith she'd never once studied. A faith her father had always dismissed as foreign, contradictory, aggressive. But none of what she saw felt that way. It felt peaceful, even beautiful. The next morning, she visited the Alhambra again, but this time not as a tourist. She stood in the Court of the Lions, watching light spill across the water basin, and whispered to herself, "There's something here." That afternoon, she visited a small bookshop tucked behind an alley. She was searching for a coffee table book on Islamic architecture. Instead, she found a worn English translation of the Qur'an. It wasn't in the religion section, just sitting on a wooden shelf beside travel guides. She picked it up. It felt heavier than it looked. That night in her Airbnb, she opened to a random page. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of night and day are signs for those of understanding. Surah Al-Imran 3:190. She read the verse 3 times, and for the first time in her life, she felt something stir, not emotion, not logic, but presence. She closed the book, set it on her nightstand, and stared at the ceiling, not afraid, not certain, just awake. Miriam didn't mean to keep reading. She told herself it was curiosity, a historical lens, a mental detour while in Andalusia. But the Qur'an stayed on the nightstand, and every night it pulled her back. She never read more than a few verses at a time, but they echoed long after the page was closed. One morning, sitting on a bench just outside the Alhambra gates, she opened to a verse that stopped her cold. "And we created you in pairs." Surah An-Naba 78. She wasn't sure why it hit her. She wasn't married. She dated men mostly from her father's community. Nice, quiet, polite. But she never felt like she truly fit in their world. This verse wasn't about marriage. It felt deeper, like the universe had a structure, a design, like nothing was random, not even her. That thought stayed with her all afternoon. Later that day, she wandered into a small halal bakery in Realejo. She was just looking for something sweet. Instead, she found her. The woman behind the counter wore a hijab the color of desert rose. Her Spanish was gentle and her eyes were calm in a way Miriam couldn't explain. "Chocolate dates," the woman said, handing her a sample. "Try one." Miriam smiled. "Gracias." The woman raised a brow. "You speak English?" "Yes," Miriam said. "From the U.S., Chicago." Oh, the woman's smile widened. "I used to live in New Jersey." They spoke for 20 minutes. Her name was Aliyah, Moroccan, born in Tangier, raised in the U.S. Came back to Spain after her husband passed away. "But I stayed," she said. "There's something about Granada that keeps the soul still." Miriam felt that too, but hadn't said it out loud until now. "I've been reading the Qur'an," she confessed quietly. Aliyah didn't react with surprise, just nodded once. Then it started. "What has?" Miriam asked. The unraveling, Aliyah said. "That gentle tearing between the world you were raised in and the truth that's calling you." Miriam's breath caught. "How did you know?" she whispered. Aliyah leaned across the counter, voice low. "Because I once stood exactly where you're standing now." They met again the next day, and the day after that. They didn't talk theology or debate doctrine. They talked about life, love, pain, loss. Aliyah never pressured, she just listened. And when Miriam asked questions about Allah, about Tawheed, about prayer, Aliyah answered with stillness. Not certainty, not superiority, just peace. By the end of the week, Miriam found herself sitting on Aliyah's rooftop terrace drinking mint tea as the adhan echoed in the distance. "It always makes me cry," Aliyah said. Miriam looked at her. "Why? Because it reminds me I'm not lost," she said. "Even when I feel like I am." Miriam looked out at the minaret. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Do you ever regret leaving Judaism?" Aliyah turned to her gently. "I didn't leave Judaism," she said. "I fulfilled it." Miriam blinked. "What do you mean?" Aliyah took a long sip of tea, then answered. "Prophet Moses brought the message to his people. So did Jesus. So did Muhammad, peace be upon them all. Same message, same God." One flame passed from one lantern to the next. Miriam sat in silence, heart pounding. She wasn't angry. She wasn't scared. She was relieved. Like someone had finally given her permission to ask the question she'd buried all her life. What if truth didn't stop with us? That night, Miriam couldn't sleep. She opened the Qur'an again. Her eyes landed on a verse she hadn't marked before. "And those who were given knowledge before it, when it is recited to them, fall upon their faces in prostration." Surah Al-Isra 17:107. She read it again, then again. Her chest felt tight. She set the book down, stood, and without knowing why, she lowered herself to the floor. No prayer mat, no Arabic, no one watching, just her knees, the cold tiles, and her forehead pressing gently to the earth. And in that moment, she cried. Not from guilt, but from recognition. It didn't feel foreign. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like home. A home she never knew she had. The rooftop breeze was soft that morning. Granada was quiet, like it knew her soul was shifting. Miriam sat with a notebook on her lap, pages filled with verses she couldn't forget. Surah al-Ikhlas, Surah al-Fatiha. A line from Surah an-Nur she kept returning to: Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. She wrote it again in English, then in Hebrew, then just sat, staring at it. Light. She chased it her whole life, and now it was chasing her. Her phone buzzed. A name on the screen she hadn't seen in weeks. Abba, her father. She hesitated, then answered. Miriam, he said, you've gone quiet on me. Sorry, Abba. I've been thinking. That's why I called. I've been thinking too. He paused. I miss you. Her throat tightened. I miss you too. There was a silence that came next, familiar and heavy. The kind they used to fill with prayer, with study, with tradition. I got your postcard, he said, from the Alhambra. Beautiful, yes. But Muslim history, isn't it? She froze, then answered carefully. It's more layered than that. But the heart of it, he said, is Islamic. Miriam didn't speak, so he filled the silence. Your mother loved Spain, you know, but she never felt comfortable with that part. She said, a land where our ancestors were silenced by sword is no place to find God. Miriam's eyes welled. Abba, can I ask you something? Of course, what if the light doesn't belong to just one people? He didn't answer right away. Then his voice shifted. What are you reading, Miriam? She exhaled, slowly. The Qur'an. Silence. Not for a second, but for 10. Then I see. That was all he said. But in those 2 words, a world collapsed. She wiped her eyes. Abba, I'm not rejecting you, or Judaism, or Ummah. I'm just, he cut in gentle but sharp. You are my daughter. You carry generations. You were born into covenant. Don't trade birthright for questions you can't answer. I'm not trading anything, she said. I'm uncovering what was always there. That's not your path to uncover. Miriam's hands shook. Maybe it is. I need to go, he said. Abba, I love you, but I can't support this. Click. The line went dead. She sat frozen. The breeze didn't feel soft anymore. The sun didn't feel warm. She clutched her phone like it could bring him back, but it was just a screen and silence. That night she didn't go to Aliyah's. She stayed in her Airbnb, curled on the couch, replaying the conversation in her mind. Every pause, every word, every silence. Then came a knock at the door. She opened it. Aliyah stood there holding soup. I had a feeling, she said. Miriam burst into tears before a single word came out. They sat on the couch. Aliyah let her cry, let her speak in fragments, about her father, about guilt, about feeling like she'd betrayed love just to follow light. When the words ran out, Aliyah spoke. You didn't betray him, she said. You disappointed his image of you. That's different. Miriam shook her head. But what if he never speaks to me again? Then he'll miss the woman you're becoming, Aliyah said softly. And that's his test, not yours. Aliyah then looked out the window toward the stars. When I converted, she said, my mother said, I raised you better. She never hugged me again, never came to my wedding. She died before we reconciled. Miriam blinked. How did you survive that? Aliyah turned back to her eyes soft. I didn't survive it. I surrendered it. Miriam furrowed her brow. To Allah, Aliyah whispered. I gave him the pain. He gave me peace. That night, Miriam pulled her prayer rug onto the floor, but this time she didn't bow right away. She sat still. Her voice cracked when she spoke. Ya Allah, if you're really there, then I need you to be enough when everyone else might not be. And then she bowed. Not for clarity, not for signs, but for strength. She hadn't planned to go to Cordoba. It was just a train ride, just a detour, just history. That's what she told herself. But when Miriam stepped off the platform and walked into the heart of the city, something pulled at her ribs like a string had been tied from within, leading her forward. She didn't have a map. She didn't need one. She followed the arches, the alleyways, the scent of orange blossoms clinging to cracked white stone, until finally there it was, the Mezquita, the mosque cathedral of Cordoba, a monument to centuries of conquest, surrender, and silence. Inside it was colder than she expected. Columns stood like trees turned to stone, endless and still. Red and white arches curved overhead like waves frozen mid-motion. Miriam walked slowly, her boots echoing softly on the marble. She didn't know where to stand. She didn't know if she was even allowed to feel what she was feeling. This was once a masjid, then a church, now a monument. But to her it felt like something else entirely. It felt like a held breath, like truth was still whispering through the walls. She found a quiet corner and sat down on a stone bench. Above her was Arabic script still carved into the arch. A fragment of a verse remained chiseled, yet forgotten. La ilaha illa Allah. There is no God but Allah. Her eyes lingered on the words. She had read them a dozen times before, but this time, they didn't feel like history. They felt like hers. Miriam whispered the words softly, first in Arabic, then in English. There is no God but Allah. And when she said it, she didn't feel blasphemous. She didn't feel disloyal. She felt whole. A tour group passed behind her. Their guide explained the timeline of the building, pointed at the architecture, joked about cultural layers. Miriam didn't move. She kept her eyes on the arch. And for the first time, she said something she couldn't unsay, I believe. She didn't say it loud, just enough for her own heart to hear. But it echoed louder than any synagogue sermon, any Torah reading, any intellectual essay she'd ever written. It wasn't a declaration, it was a homecoming. That night, she returned to Granada. The train hummed through dark fields. She didn't read. She didn't scroll. She just sat, head resting against the window, watching the moonlight wash over olive trees, and whispered the kalima over and over. Not for clarity, not for evidence, but because it finally felt like truth. Back in her Airbnb, she opened her Qur'an, Surah Al-An'am, verse 125. So whoever Allah wants to guide, He expands his chest to Islam. She pressed her hand against her chest. It felt wide, open, strangely light. She texted Aliyah, I need to see you tomorrow. Not for tea, something else. Aliyah responded instantly, come before door. I'll be waiting. The next morning, the sun over Granada was golden and loud. Tourists filled the streets. Vendors shouted about saffron and spices. But Miriam walked with quiet purpose. She reached Aliyah's door and knocked twice. It opened before the third. Inside the room was already prepared. Prayer rug facing east. Small wooden box holding prayer beads. Qur'an opened to Surah Al-Fatiha. Aliyah stood beside it and smiled like she already knew. I'm ready, Miriam said. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just certainty. Aliyah stepped closer. Then say it when your heart is ready. Miriam closed her eyes, breathed deep, and began Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. As she finished, something shifted in the room. Not light, not sound, but stillness. Complete, total stillness. Aliyah stepped forward and hugged her. Not like a mentor, not like a guide, like a sister. You're home now, she whispered. Miriam's eyes filled, but she didn't cry from grief or confusion. She cried because she finally knew who she was, and she had no desire to be anything else again. That night, she wrote an email to her father, not to convince him, not to defend herself, just to tell him the truth. I still love the Torah. I still honor our heritage. But I believe now that the message didn't end with us. It continued, it grew. It called me across oceans, across time, into sujood. And Abba, I followed it. She clicked send, then opened her prayer rug and bowed. Miriam's hands trembled as she tied her hijab for the first time. Not out of fear, not from shame, but because it felt real now. Like everything she'd whispered, prayed, wept through, was no longer just private. Now it was visible. Now the world would know. She walked to the masjid with Aliyah for dur. It was small, tucked between a pharmacy and a bookstore, with a wooden door painted teal and a sign in Arabic script that read, House of Mercy. Inside, the prayer was quiet. No grand recitation, no emotional climax. But when Miriam stood shoulder to shoulder beside women in prayer, when she bowed, when her forehead touched the earth with no doubt, no hesitation, she didn't just feel included, she felt invited. After the prayer, a woman hugged her tightly. "Mubarak," she said. "Welcome, sister." Another offered her a date. Someone else pressed prayer beads into her palm. Miriam couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't giddy, it was gratitude. This wasn't conversion, this was remembering. Back at the Airbnb, she opened her inbox. There it was. Subject, "Why?" from David Levinson. She clicked. "Miriam, I received your email. I read every word 3 times, and I wept. Not because I hate you, not because I'm ashamed, but because I'm afraid. Afraid that I've lost my daughter to a book I do not know, a prophet I do not follow, and a path I was taught to distrust. You say you still love us, but how can you if you've stepped beyond the covenant? I don't understand you. I don't know if I ever will. Abba." Miriam read it twice, then closed her laptop. No response yet, no attempt to fix her fight. Just silence. And that hurt more than shouting ever could. Later that night, Aliyah made harira soup and lit candles. They didn't talk much. Until Miriam said, "I think I've disappointed him beyond repair." Aliyah looked up. "Maybe, or maybe, you've just forced him to ask questions he buried a long time ago." Miriam smiled weakly. "That's generous." Aliyah handed her a bowl. "That's faith." The next morning, Miriam went for a walk through Al-Bazin. The sun had just broken over the rooftops. Shops were opening. Sparrows flitted between lines of drying laundry. She breathed deeply, slowly. She was learning to live slower now, more present, more prayerful. When she returned, Aliyah was holding her phone, eyebrows raised. "You have a message," she said. From who? Aliyah handed her the phone. "Your father's cousin, in Morocco." Miriam blinked. "What? I don't know how she got your email, but she sent this." Miriam read the message on the screen. Subject, "Your grandmother's secret, assalamu alaikum." Miriam, "You don't know me, but I know your father, and I know your grandmother, his mother, better than he ever did. She was born Miriam, Bat Sarah. But after fleeing to Casablanca during the war, she met a woman who introduced her to Islam. She kept it hidden, wore the faith in silence, prayed when no one watched. When she died, she whispered the Shahada, but no one in the family knew what it meant. I did. I witnessed it. She chose both, to live as a Jew and die as a Muslim. And now, I see you, Miriam, and I see her in you." Miriam's breath caught. She scrolled back to the top and read it again. Then again. Her eyes filled. Her name was from her grandmother. Her search not new, her calling not alone. She pressed the phone to her chest and whispered, "Ya Allah, you knew all along." She wiped her tears and looked up at Aliyah. "My grandmother," she began, her voice trembling. "She took Shahada before she died." Aliyah covered her mouth in awe. "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un," she whispered. "She never got to live it. But you will." That night, Miriam didn't pray with hesitation. She prayed like someone continuing something. Not beginning, not switching, just carrying the light forward. She opened her laptop and began typing. Subject, "I have something to tell you. To Abba, Abba, I thought I was alone. But today I learned that Grandma whispered the same words I did, with the same name on her lips. I know this hurts. I know it's hard. But maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of our story. Maybe it's the start of one we never finished." Miriam. Her bags were packed, one suitcase, one backpack, a prayer rug rolled tight between folded scarves, a Qur'an marked with dozens of sticky notes. Her return flight was in 2 days. But Miriam felt like she was leaving something more than a city behind. She was leaving a version of herself, the one who came to Granada lost, half believing, half doubting, searching for something unnamed. Now she didn't just believe, she belonged. Aliyah helped her fold the last of her clothes. Neither of them said much, until Miriam sat on the edge of the bed and asked softly, "Do you regret it?" Aliyah looked up. "Regret what? Giving up the life you had?" Aliyah smiled, tucking a scarf into the side pouch of Miriam's luggage. "I didn't give it up," she said. "I traded it for something better." That afternoon, Miriam made one last walk through the Alhambra. Not as a tourist, not even as a student of history. She walked as someone saying goodbye to a teacher, because that's what this place had been for her, a silent, sacred witness to her awakening. She passed through the Gate of Justice, paused in the Court of the Lions, and then in the Hall of the Two Sisters, she sat on the cool floor, closed her eyes, and wept. No words, just gratitude. So much gratitude. Later that evening, after Maghrib prayer, she walked alone to the Mirador de San Nicolas, the lookout point where the full Alhambra glowed under moonlight. Tourists took selfies. Musicians played soft guitar nearby. But Miriam blocked it all out. She found a quiet corner, laid down her prayer rug, faced the Qibla, and made sujud, the last sujud of her journey. Not the last in her life, but the last one here, the last one in the city where she'd been reborn. And in that sujud, she whispered, "Ya Allah, you brought me here with questions I was too afraid to ask. You answered me with silence, and you filled my silence with light. I leave now as yours, so guide my feet from this moment forward, even when I go where the road is dark." She didn't lift her head for a long time, because in that position she felt most like herself. Back in the Airbnb, her phone buzzed. One new email. Subject, "I read your letter." From Abba. She opened it with trembling fingers. "Miriam, I didn't know about my mother. What you wrote shook me. I sat with it for hours. Then I sat with her photo. I don't know if I understand Islam, but I understand the courage it took you to say what you did. And if I'm being honest, maybe I was afraid not just of losing you, but of what it would mean if you were right. I still believe in the Torah, but perhaps, as you said, truth does not end with us. I don't know if I can accept it yet, but I accept you, and I love you." Abba. Miriam clutched the phone to her chest, eyes brimming. It wasn't agreement, but it was grace. The next morning, Aliyah walked her to the taxi. They embraced tightly. Miriam whispered, "You saved me." Aliyah replied, "Allah saved you. I just opened the door." They both laughed, then cried, then laughed again. In the taxi, as the hills of Granada slipped behind her, Miriam watched the sunlight pour across the landscape like honey. She whispered softly under her breath, "La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah." She didn't say it with trembling this time. She said it like a woman who had found her compass. And wherever she went now, she would walk with light. The plane landed in Chicago under gray skies. Miriam stepped off with a scarf wrapped gently around her hair, a light coat hugging her frame, and a heart that no longer needed noise to feel full. She expected stares. She got a few. She expected whispers. She heard them too. But none of it shook her, because she wasn't the same Miriam who left. She was Yusuf's granddaughter, Aliyah's sister, and a woman who had once bowed her head beneath Andalusian arches and found everything she had been missing. She returned to her father's house quietly. No suitcase drama, no confrontations, just a quiet knock. He opened the door, paused, then hugged her, tight, longer than usual. He didn't ask about the scarf. She didn't ask if he was okay. Some things don't need words. The weeks passed. Miriam settled into a rhythm. 5 prayers, simple meals, quiet Qur'an readings at night. She still visited the synagogue with her father on Fridays, not to pray, but to honor. They sat together in silence after services. 2 generations, 2 tracks, still one blood. One afternoon, her former Hebrew studies professor emailed her. Subject, interfaith panel seeking a Jewish voice. Miriam stared at it for a long time. She didn't delete it. She didn't say yes. She sat with it. Then replied, "I'm no longer only Jewish, but I carry it still inside my Islam. If that voice matters to you, I'd be honored." A week later, she stood on stage in a small community hall. Not a grand auditorium, just a modest space lined with chairs and hearts trying to understand one another. The host introduced her, raised in a rabbinic household, newly Muslim, a writer-teacher seeker. The mic hummed in her hands. She took a breath and spoke. "I wasn't looking for Islam," she said. "I was looking for stillness. I found it in Spain between silence and scripture, between arches carved by hands who prayed. I didn't convert to reject my roots. I converted because my roots led me to the water's edge. and Islam taught me how to drink. The room was quiet, no applause, just listening. She continued, "My father asked me once, 'How can you love us if you follow what we don't?' And I told him, love isn't erased by truth. It's deepened by it." Later, a woman in the audience approached her. Gray hijab, soft smile, accent from somewhere near Lebanon. "My daughter is thinking of converting," she said. Miriam nodded. "It's a path. She's afraid. I was too." "What should I tell her?" Miriam smiled. "Tell her that Allah never calls us where He won't meet us." That night, as she lay in bed, she opened her Qur'an to a bookmarked verse. Surah Al-Hujurat 49:13. "O mankind, we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous." She closed the book, turned off the lamp, and prayed one last sujood before sleep, not out of obligation, but because that's where she belonged now, in sujood, where whispers became truth, where daughters found legacies, where stories like hers start again, of Miriam's journey to Islam and her first steps as Yusufa. Have you ever heard of an FBI agent trained in deception, surveillance, and counterterrorism who entered a mosque with a hidden mic and left with a Quran in his hands? Sounds impossible, right? But it happened. Press 1 if you believe no one can hide from the truth forever. Press 2 if you've ever had one moment that shook your entire worldview. He was assigned to infiltrate a Muslim community, to gather intel, to spot red flags, to expose what others couldn't see. But what he didn't expect was to sit in silence on a soft red carpet next to a man who offered him tea and smiled at him like a brother. He didn't expect the words of a foreign book to echo inside his chest like they'd been waiting there his whole life. And he definitely didn't expect the thing he feared most to be the thing that finally brought him peace. His name was Cole Matthews, special agent, 12 years in, top of his class at Quantico, the kind of man who never blinked first. When the order came, he didn't flinch. Masjid ar-Rahman, Detroit. "You're going in solo," said his unit chief. Cole raised an eyebrow. "Why them travel patterns? One or two names linked to flagged individuals overseas. No hard intel, but there's noise, and we need ears inside." Cole nodded. Simple enough. He'd done worse. His cover was tight. Adam Reeves, 34, divorced, searching for spiritual clarity, new to Detroit. The Bureau gave him an unmarked Ford burner phone and a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. But his most valuable tool wasn't a gun or wiretap. It was his face, clean-shaven, calm, non-threatening. People told him he looked like a high school teacher. They trusted him. That was always the first mistake. Sunday morning, chilly, cloudy, late October. He parked across the street from the mosque. Small building, brick walls faded by time, no sign out front. Just a green dome barely visible from the road. He checked the mic in his collar. Still live. He crossed the street. Inside was silence. Not tension, not plotting. Just peace. The air smelled like sandalwood. The carpet was clean, and a few men sat quietly reading, reflecting. Cole stood there a moment, unsure of what to do. Then a voice broke the silence. "Assalamu alaikum, brother." Cole turned. A man in his 60s, African-American salt and pepper beard, warm eyes. First time Cole nodded slowly. "Yeah, just looking around." The man smiled. "Welcome. I'm Yusuf." He held out his hand. Cole shook it. It was warm. "Real. Thanks," Cole said. "I'm Adam." Yusuf led him in, offered him tea, and showed him where to sit. As people entered, they greeted Cole like he belonged. No suspicion, no interrogation, just kindness. He didn't expect it. He didn't know how to process it. He thought this place would smell of fear. It smelled like home. The imam walked in. Young, calm presence. No fiery rhetoric. No talk of politics or war. Instead, today we'll reflect on patience and how the prophet, peace be upon him, responded to cruelty with mercy. Cole sat, listened, waiting for something, anything to report, but it never came. The only thing he noticed was that he felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, Not guilt, just stillness. That night back at the motel, he uploaded his audio. No threats, no red flags, just silence, warmth, laughter, and one phrase he heard over and over: "You're always welcome here." He closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a spy. He felt like a guest. He told himself it was just another op, just another Sunday. But something pulled him back to Masjid ar-Rahman the next morning. It wasn't part of protocol. There was no Friday khutbah, no assigned surveillance slot, no directive from the bureau. And yet, he found himself there. 7:14 a.m., same beat-up Ford, same hoodie, same wire, different heart. He told himself he was just gathering more intel. Routine follow-up, he noted in his mental report. But that wasn't it. Not really. When he stepped into the masjid that morning, the lights were dim. The sunrise bled orange through the windows. There were no speeches, no lectures, only prayer. Soft, orderly, quiet. The room was lined with men shoulder to shoulder, silent except for one voice. The imam stood at the front, his hands raised, eyes closed. Then came the sound. A voice unlike anything Cole had heard before. The Qur'an spoken aloud, not translated, not dissected, just recited. There was a rhythm in it, not musical, not poetic, but alive. It flowed like water, but it hit like thunder. Cole didn't understand the words, but something in the cadence reached through him, like a frequency buried deep beneath logic, like it wasn't meant for his ears, but for something buried beneath his ribs. He stood in the back frozen, not because of protocol, not because of nerves, but because he couldn't move. The verses kept coming. Afala yakilun, do they not use reason? It was as if the question was aimed at him. And then another, Inna fi dhalika la ayat, liqaumin yatafakkarun. Indeed, in that are signs for those who reflect. Something cracked, not a breakdown, not panic, but a deep, quiet rupture in his chest, like an old door opening after years of rust. Cole didn't cry, not yet, but something behind his eyes stung. He felt the urge to sit, so he did. On the edge of the carpet, back to the wall, unsure what was happening to him. After the prayer, he didn't leave. He waited. A few brothers smiled at him, shook his hand, patted his shoulder. No pressure, no questions. Then the imam approached. Adam, right? The young man smiled. You've been here a couple times now. Cole nodded. Yeah, it's different here. In what way? Cole hesitated. He wasn't ready to reveal what he couldn't explain, so he deflected. Peaceful, he said. That's all. The imam nodded. Alhamdulillah. Then he offered something simple, something Cole never expected. We're having a Qur'an circle tonight after Maghrib. Just listening, reflecting. You're welcome to join. No pressure. Cole paused. He should have said no. He should have kept his distance. But instead, yeah, he said. Sure. That night Cole returned. No wire this time. He told himself the mic had battery issues. But deep down, he just didn't want this recorded. The Qur'an circle was small, 10, maybe 12 men. They sat in a loose ring, the imam at the center. They read verses, reflected, took turns. No one preached, no one debated. It wasn't like church sermons, no theatrics, no guilt, just guidance. Then something happened. One of the brothers, Kareem, the ex-con who had invited him to lunch, read a verse. His voice cracked mid-sentence. He stopped, lowered his head, eyes wet. There was no shame. No one laughed, no one interrupted. Instead, another brother gently put a hand on his shoulder. Take your time, Aki, he said. Brother, Aki, that word again. Cole watched it all stunned. Men, grown men, educated, weathered, strong, crying. Over words in a book. What kind of words were these? After the circle, Cole stayed behind. He approached the imam. Hey, he said quieter than he meant to. That verse Kareem read. What was it? The imam opened his Qur'an, Surah Az-Zumar, verse 22. Is one whose chest Allah has opened to Islam, so he is upon a light from his Lord. Cole stared at the page. The word light, it lingered. The Imam smiled. Sometimes the light doesn't come like a flashlight, he said. It's more like the sun rising, slow, but steady. Cole didn't reply, but he felt it. That sun. It had started to rise, and he didn't know how to stop it. Cole stood in the motel bathroom staring at his own reflection. Same face, same cold eyes, but something felt wrong. He had gone to the Qur'an circle 3 nights in a row now. No wire, no notes, just listening. He told himself it was for deeper intel, but his heart knew better. He wasn't observing anymore. He was absorbing. At 9:00 a.m., sharp, his phone buzzed. Unknown caller. He already knew who it was. Matthews, the voice said. Debrief, 10 a.m., field office. Room 312, click. No time for excuses. No how's the op going. Just a summons. Cole closed his eyes and breathed. Then opened his closet, reached past his hoodie and pulled out his suit. Back into character. The field office was all concrete buzzers and cold lighting. He hated this place even when he wasn't conflicted. Inside room 312, 2 people waited. Special Agent Linda Shaw, Behavioral Unit, and Assistant Director Kurt Rennick. Cole stiffened. He didn't expect Rennick. That meant Washington was watching. Shaw spoke first. Agent Matthews. You've been embedded for 2 weeks. Your last report was light. Cole shrugged, playing it casual. They're quiet. No flags. A few foreign contacts, but nothing criminal. Mostly community work. Food drives. Quran study. Rennick leaned forward, eyes sharp. You like them? Cole blinked. Excuse me, the Muslims. You like them? He paused. I'm not there to like or dislike. I'm there to observe. Shaw tapped a pen on the table. You're there to identify patterns. And lately your data's been thin. Cole crossed his arms. They're not hiding anything. Or Rennick said you're no longer looking. Cole stared back steady. He had lied in briefings before, but this time felt different. This time the lie wasn't for the mission, it was for himself. I'm still looking, he said. Then look harder, Rennick snapped. Because if you're not going to give us anything actionable, we'll pull you out and send someone who will. Shaw cut in more gently. You've been inside a faith-based community, Cole. That can affect even the best. Cole raised an eyebrow. You think I'm getting converted, you tell us, she said quietly. He didn't answer. Back in the car, he sat in silence. The heater blasted, but he felt cold. His hands shook. He turned the key, then stopped. He could go back to the motel, write a false report, kill time, or he could go back to the masjid. He chose the masjid. It was lunchtime when he arrived. A few brothers were there eating lentil soup, laughing, arguing about basketball. Kareem spotted him and grinned. Look who's back, Cole smiled without thinking. Couldn't stay away. Yusuf handed him a bowl of soup. No questions, no judgment, just warmth. Cole sat, listened, laughed. For a moment he forgot the bureau, forgot the wire, forgot his name wasn't really Adam. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6, peeked around a hallway corner. She ran up to Yusuf, whispered something, then turned to Cole. She smiled and said, Is he Muslim yet? The room went quiet. Cole blinked. Sorry, what? She repeated it innocently, sincerely. Are you Muslim yet? Mr. Yusuf chuckled and ruffled her hair. She asked everyone that, but it hit Cole like a bullet through glass. He didn't know how to answer. She ran off laughing, but the question stayed. It echoed louder than any threat he'd ever faced. That night, Cole skipped the report entirely. He sat on his motel bed staring at the wall. That little girl's voice, that word yet, not if, but when. He opened the drawer. Inside the Quran Kareem had gifted him 2 days earlier. He hadn't touched it. Now, he opened it. The English translation, plain, straightforward, no commentary, just the words. He flipped pages until his eyes landed on a line. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 2. This is the book in which there is no doubt a guidance for those who are mindful of Allah. He read it again. No doubt. No other book would dare say that in its opening line. He closed it gently. His heart was thudding. He had faced down gang leaders, cartels, bomb threats, traitors. But nothing scared him like the idea that this might actually be true. Cole didn't go back to the field office, not for days. He let the calls go to voicemail. The texts came, then the threats. Report in, or we assume compromise. He read them in silence, then deleted them all. The Qur'an stayed by his bedside now, open, marked, worn. He didn't read it like a spy anymore. He read it like a man searching for something he'd never thought he needed. And then it happened. Tuesday night, 11:04 p.m. Lights off. Masjid closed. Cole knelt on the floor of his motel room. He'd watched the brothers pray 100 times. He knew the motions. He didn't know if he was doing it right. He didn't know if Allah would accept it. He didn't even know if he believed fully. But his knees hit the carpet. His forehead followed. And in that moment, he didn't feel like an agent, or a fake, or a man pretending. He felt small. And for the first time in his adult life, he was okay with that. Tears came before the words did. He didn't speak Arabic, but his heart said what it needed. God, if you're there, don't let me walk away. He stayed in sujood for what felt like an hour. The next morning his phone buzzed again. This time he answered. Matthews, Rennick's voice sharp. You have 24 hours to report, or we pull you and file for dereliction of duty. Cole hesitated, then said flatly, understood. Click. He had no plan, no strategy. He wasn't thinking like an agent anymore, just a man caught between two worlds. That evening he drove, not to the field office, not to the masjid. He went to a hill on the city's edge where the skyline stretched beneath the stars. He got out of the car, sat on the hood, pulled the Qur'an from the glove compartment, and read. Indeed, those who believed and did righteous deeds, their hearts will find rest in the remembrance of Allah. Surah Arad 13-28. He closed the book, leaned back, looked up at the sky. He remembered his training, how they taught him to detect lies, and he realized he hadn't heard a single lie inside that masjid, not one. He went back to the motel, packed a bag, left the mic, the bureau phone, and his badge on the nightstand. It was done. Whatever happened now, he wouldn't go back. He didn't go straight to the masjid. He was afraid they'd ask questions. He was more afraid they wouldn't, that they'd just smile, hand him tea, and treat him like he was already one of them. Because deep down, he wanted that more than he was ready to admit. He wandered the city for hours. No destination, just a hard unraveling, one stitch at a time. Then around midnight, he parked near the masjid, just to sit. He didn't expect anyone to be there, but he saw the lights on, and someone inside, mopping. It was Kareem. Kareem looked up through the glass and waved him in. Adam, he said. You all right? Cole hesitated, then walked in. I just needed air, he said. Kareem nodded, sensing something deeper. You want to sit? They sat near the front. No one else was around, just the hum of the heater and the faint scent of musk. Kareem wiped his hands with a towel and looked at him. You look like a man who's carrying a secret. Cole looked down, fingers clenched. Then he said it. I've been lying to you. Kareem didn't flinch, didn't ask for details. Okay, he said, but not tonight. Cole looked up. What tonight's not about your lies. It's about your heart. Cole blinked. Kareem leaned forward. Let me ask you one thing. When you bowed your head to the floor, was it real? Cole didn't answer with words. He just nodded. Once, slow, tears building again. Kareem smiled. Then you're already on your way, brother. Cole broke, right there, in that empty masjid with no camera, no handler, no mission. He cried like a man finally waking up from a long nightmare, and no one judged him. No one asked for anything. Kareem simply put an arm around his shoulder and said nothing, because silence sometimes speaks louder than truth. The next morning was too quiet. Detroit streets had that eerie, calm, gray skies, heavy air like something was about to break. Cole sat in his car outside Masjid ar-Rahman. He didn't want to go in, didn't want to smile, didn't want to keep pretending, because something inside him had finally snapped free, and whatever came next, he wasn't turning back. But then he saw it, a black SUV parked across the street, government plates. Tinted windows, it wasn't one of theirs. And he knew. The bureau had come to collect their ghost. He didn't panic. He just stepped out of the car, zipped his jacket, and crossed the street. He entered the masjid like nothing was wrong. But inside, Yusuf was waiting. He wasn't smiling. "Come with me," Yusuf said softly. They walked into the back prayer room, empty, carpet clean, a faint trace of incense in the air. Yusuf closed the door behind them, then turned to face him. "You're not Adam," he said. Cole's breath caught. "What you're not who you say you are. You never were." Cole looked down, said nothing. Yusuf didn't yell, didn't curse. He just sighed. "How long?" Yusuf asked. Cole swallowed hard. "Since the beginning." Why? Cole hesitated. "I thought I was here to protect people, to catch something." "And what did you find?" Cole met his eyes. "A place that felt more like home than anywhere I've ever been." Yusuf didn't respond right away. He sat on the edge of the prayer rug and motioned for Cole to sit too. Cole did. Then came silence, heavy but not hostile. Yusuf finally spoke. "I was in prison once," he said, "back in the 80s for something I didn't do." Cole looked up. "They had me in solitary, 23 hours a day, no window, no clock, just a metal bed and my own mind." Cole listened. Yusuf continued. "Then one day, one of the guards slipped a book under my door, a Qur'an. I didn't even know what it was, just read it to kill time." He paused. "But by the third night I was weeping into the pages." "I know what it's like to be judged before you're known," Yusuf said. "I also know what it's like to change." Cole felt something tear inside. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he whispered. Yusuf nodded. "I believe you." Then, a knock at the back door. 3 quick taps. Precise. Deliberate. Yusuf stood. "They're here for you." Cole stood too. "I'll go." But Yusuf blocked the door with his hand. "Not yet." He pulled something from the shelf, a black prayer robe. He handed it to Cole. "If they're going to take you," he said, "let them take a Muslim." Cole stared at him. "I'm not." Yusuf raised a brow. "You bowed. You believed. You wept. What else are you waiting for?" Cole held the robe. It was light, cotton, simple, but it felt heavier than his entire past. Outside, the knock came again, harder this time. Cole stepped toward the door, then turned back. "I'm not ready." Yusuf smiled. "No one ever is." Cole breathed deep. "Then say it with me," Yusuf said quietly. And there in a small prayer room in the back of a mosque, he was once sent to spy on Cole. Matthew's whispered words that changed his soul. "Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." He didn't even hear the third knock. All he could hear was his heart, steady, calm, alive. The back door swung open. 2 agents stepped in, guns holstered, badges displayed. Matthews, the taller one, barked, "Hands where we can see them." Cole didn't flinch. He looked them in the eye. "I'm not Matthews anymore." He raised his hands slowly, not in surrender, but in peace. Yusuf stepped between them. "This is a house of God," he said. The taller agent nodded once reluctantly. "We're not here to arrest him." Cole blinked. "You're not?" "No, we're here to bring you in. Debrief only. For now." The other agent added, "But DC's watching. You're going to have to make a choice." Cole looked down at the robe in his hand, then at the prayer mat beneath his feet. "I already did." The ride was silent. The bureau didn't cuff him, didn't yell, didn't even speak aside from "get in." Cole sat in the back of the SUV, prayer robe folded in his lap, staring out the window at the city blurring past. He had just taken his shahada. He had just given up his identity. He had just told 2 federal agents, "I'm not Matthews anymore." But now he didn't know who he was to them. Asset liability trader. They pulled into a secure lot beneath a government building near downtown. No signs, no logos, just cold walls and tighter air. Cole was led to a gray room with a table, 2 chairs, and a one-way mirror. The kind of room where people lose pieces of themselves. He sat, waited. Then the door opened. Special Agent Linda Shaw walked in, flanked by another man in a suit Cole didn't recognize. She placed a file on the table. Didn't sit, didn't smile. "You took your shahada." Cole didn't blink. Yes. The man beside her spoke next. We recorded it. Cameras outside. Mic feed. We know what happened, Cole nodded. Shaw leaned in. What we don't know, Agent Matthews, is what side you're on now. I'm not on a side, Cole said calmly. I'm on a path. That's not how this works, the man snapped. You work for us. You wear our badge. You don't just switch teams because you had a spiritual moment. Cole looked him in the eye. I didn't switch teams. I found truth. Shaw sat down slowly now. Her voice softened. Cole, you have to understand how this looks. I do, he said. And you're okay with this. I'm more okay than I've ever been. Silence. Then Shaw opened the folder. A photo slid across the table. Black and white. A man. Thick beard. Brown eyes. Smiling. It was Kareem. Cole's breath caught. Shaw said, Recognize him. Yes, he said. That's Kareem. He's one of the brothers at the masjid. The other agent leaned forward. That man's real name is Tariq Mansour. He was flagged in 2012 for ties to an international network. He disappeared after a plea deal. Witness protection. Cole's stomach dropped. No, he said. That's not possible. Shaw nodded slowly. Until 2 months ago, when he surfaced in Detroit. We couldn't confirm it was him until you brought us close. Cole shook his head. You think he's radicalized? The man shrugged. We don't know. But we know he disappeared for 10 years. People don't do that unless they're hiding something. Cole leaned back, hands on his head. Everything inside him twisted. He showed me mercy, Cole said. He offered me food, comfort, truth. He never once preached hate, never once mentioned politics. Shaw nodded. And that's why you're going back in. What you're not out. Not yet, she said. You just became more valuable than ever. Cole stood. No. Yes, the man said. You're clean now. Nobody suspects you. You're in. And we need to know what else that masjid is hiding. Cole laughed bitterly. You mean besides forgiveness? Shaw stood 2 stepping closer. We're not your enemy, Cole. You were never the enemy, he said. But maybe I was. He walked to the door. The other agent blocked it. Where do you think you're going? Cole looked him dead in the eye. To pray. They let him leave, but not before warning, we'll be watching. And if you cross a line, any line, we won't protect you. Cole walked out of the building into a fading sunset. He didn't go straight to the masjid. He needed time to think, to breathe, to remember what was real. He parked 3 blocks away and walked the rest on foot. Masjid ar-Rahman was lit up. The evening prayer had just ended. He entered. Kareem saw him and smiled. Yo, my man, I didn't see you yesterday. But Cole didn't smile back. He looked at him, carefully, quietly, then said, Who are you, really? Kareem's smile faltered. Then, he nodded. Let's talk. Kareem led Cole into a side hallway of the masjid, quiet away from the chatter of brothers stacking chairs and kids chasing each other. They stopped near the wudu station. Kareem leaned against the wall. All right, he said. Ask. Cole's voice was low but firm. Who are you? Kareem looked down, then up. I was someone the government didn't trust. Still am. Cole's jaw tightened. So it's true you were in witness protection. Kareem nodded. Years ago, I did time, made mistakes, but I left that life. I found Islam in solitary, took my shahada with no one around, just me and a flickering bulb overhead. He looked Cole straight in the eye. I never lied to you, brother, not once. Cole exhaled. All that pressure eased. Why didn't you tell me, he asked. You were a guest, Kareem said. Then you were a seeker, then a brother. I didn't want my past to be a wall between us. Cole leaned back against the opposite wall. So they're still watching you? Kareem nodded. Let them. Silence passed. Then Cole chuckled softly. They want me to go back in, pretend I'm still undercover, spy on you. Kareem smirked. You gonna? Cole shook his head. No, I'm done being 2 people. Then be one, Kareem said. Pick the right one, and don't look back. The next day, Cole drove straight to the field office. He walked in through the main entrance. No hood, no badge, no wire, just a prayer robe folded under his arm. He asked to see Assistant Director Rennick. They made him wait, then finally called him up. Rennick was already irritated before Cole even sat down. "You missed the deadline," he snapped. "I'm not coming back," and Cole said plainly. "You don't get to choose that." "I just did." Rennick slammed a folder on the desk. "This isn't over. You have no idea how deep this goes." "I don't need to," Cole replied. "I know who I am now." Rennick narrowed his eyes. "What do you think happens next? You think you just get to walk away clean?" "No," Cole said. "I think I walk away forgiven." And he stood. He left his FBI badge on the table and never touched it again. That night the masjid was nearly empty. Just a few men in the prayer hall. Cole entered quietly. Not as Adam, not as Agent Matthews, just as himself. He found Yusuf sitting near the back reading Qur'an. Yusuf smiled as he saw him approach. "You're early," he said. Cole nodded. "Yeah, I needed to be here." "You always were," Yusuf said. Prayer began. Cole stood shoulder to shoulder with the brothers he once watched from a distance. He bowed. He recited what little he had learned, and then he fell into sujud. This time it wasn't hesitation. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't guilt. It was surrender. Full, quiet, glorious. And as his forehead touched the earth, he cried. But not from fear, from gratitude. Behind him the prayer continued. Outside the city buzzed on like any other night. But inside that small masjid, a man had finally stopped running. After prayer, Yusuf approached him. Cole was still on the carpet, sitting cross-legged, robe, loose eyes red. Yusuf didn't say anything at first, just sat beside him. Then asked, "Do you remember the first time you came here?" Cole smiled. "I walked in with a mic taped to my chest." Yusuf chuckled. "And now I walk in with nothing to hide." Kareem joined them, handing Cole a small wooden box. "What's this?" Cole asked. "Open it." Inside was a new prayer rug. Black gold-stitched edges, clean, unused. But it wasn't the design that mattered. It was the name stitched at the top corner. Yusuf ibn Abdullah. "Yusuf was the name I chose when I converted," Cole said softly. Kareem nodded. "Then it's yours." Cole ran his fingers over the thread. He had chased enemies through alleys, kicked down doors, interrogated suspects. But this was the first time he felt like he had truly arrived. Final scene. Outside the masjid, the street was quiet. Cole, now Yusuf, stepped into the night. No protection, no backup, no handler in his ear. Just the cold air on his face, the Qur'an in his chest, and the remembrance of a Lord who had been waiting for him all along. He came to spy, but found peace. He came with doubt, but left with conviction. And the man who once hid in the shadows now walked in the light.